Willow Creek, a small town where the air forever carried the fragrance of autumn leaves, the rustle of tired branches, and the weight of decades of quiet lives. But on one gray October morning, silence fell heavier than ever before. The Whitmore residence, draped in black, lit only by the flicker of candles, had become the center of grief. Inside, the family gathered around the casket of Eleanor Whitmore. She was not just a mother, not just a grandmother. She was the spine of the family, the hands that held them through storms, the eyes that saw both rise and ruin, the unshakable force that bound them when pride threatened to tear them apart. Now her gleaming mahogany casket rested in the living room. A single white rose lay on top, fragile yet commanding. Children and grandchildren stood in silence, each drowning in their own grief and in their own secrets. Among them Daniel, the eldest son, a lawyer with charm on the surface, but arrogance buried deep. Margaret, the only daughter, pale and tight-lipped, as though her voice itself might betray too much. Paul, the youngest, long trapped under the shadow of weakness. Neighbors filled the corners, whispering condolences. Yet, in the back, half hidden in the shadows, stood a man no one seemed to recognize. His long black coat, his stiff posture, his eyes not carrying tears but intent, as though he was waiting for a curtain to rise. And indeed, it would, because Eleanor Whitmore had left behind more than memories. She had left behind secrets, and the truth, once unearthed, would unravel her family forever. A week later, the Whitmores gathered at Daniel's downtown law office. The polished oak table reflected cold lamplight. Files sat stacked like weapons waiting to be drawn. Daniel cleared his throat. "This is it. Mother's last will and testament, signed 3 years ago in my presence." His voice was steady. Yet Margaret caught the flicker of unease that passed across his face. The words spilled into the quiet. Margaret inherited the lake house and its acres. Paul inherited the Sonoma vineyard. Daniel was left in charge of the Whitmore Trust. At first, no one spoke. Then Margaret's brows furrowed. The vineyard. For Paul. Paul blinked, stunned. "She never told me." Daniel's jaw tightened. Mother wanted fairness. Her will must be respected. But his voice betrayed something. Darker something unsaid. And then the man in the black coat stepped forward. "My name is Richard Hale," he announced. "I was Eleanor's confidant in her final years. She entrusted me with sealed letters, truths, to be revealed only after her death." The room froze. Margaret trembled. Paul's face drained of color. Daniel's eyes darkened. "This," Richard said, sliding an envelope across the table, "is the truth she left behind." Margaret opened the envelope. Eleanor's handwriting flowed like a ghost across the page. "My children, if you are reading this, I am gone. I raised you with love, but also with silence. There is more to my story, more to yours. You have another brother. His name is Michael." The words shattered the room. Margaret whispered, "Broken? A fourth heir?" Paul's voice cracked. "This can't be real." But Richard laid down documents. Adoption records, proof. Eleanor had a son before your father. He was given up. His name is Michael. He lives in Chicago, and he is entitled to a share of her estate." Daniel roared. Lies, mother would never, but even he, deep in his chest, knew she carried regrets too heavy to speak. Michael arrived weeks later. A man in his 40s, with quiet eyes shadowed by a lifetime of abandonment. Margaret welcomed him cautiously. Paul, uncertain but kind, extended a hand. But Daniel turned to ice. Behind closed doors, he schemed. He forged, he siphoned, he lied. He painted himself as the loyal son, even as he stole from the very trust he claimed to protect. But Eleanor had anticipated this. Richard revealed yet another letter. "Daniel, if you choose deceit, remember every empire built on lies crumbles. I pray you choose honor. But if not, truth will rise against you." And so it did. The courtroom became the stage of a family tragedy. The town packed the benches, whispering, gasping. Margaret testified, her voice shaking with both loyalty and guilt. Paul found strength, describing hints his mother had dropped. About someone lost, Michael spoke with heartbreaking simplicity. I do not want wealth. I want recognition. I want to know I was not abandoned because I was unworthy, but because she was. Trapped, silence gripped the room. Even the judge softened. Then came Daniel. He painted himself as the savior, the son who stayed. But cross-examination tore his facade apart. Hidden accounts, forged signatures, betrayal laid bare. The empire he built crumbled before everyone's eyes. The court ruled the estate would be divided into 4. Paul received the vineyard, Margaret the lake house, Michael his share, and Daniel the financial trust. But victory carried scars. Daniel's name was ruined. His siblings turned their backs. He left the courthouse shattered, not just stripped of wealth, but of family. Margaret, Paul, and Michael stood together, fragile but united. We can't make up for lost years, Margaret whispered. But we can begin again. Michael's eyes glistened. That's all I want, a chance. Months later, Willow Creek found rhythm again. The vineyard thrived under Paul. Margaret restored the lake house into a place of gathering. Michael visited often, piecing together bonds brick by brick. Daniel vanished. For months, he wandered nameless through cities, until one cold winter afternoon, he returned. At his mother's grave, he placed a hand on the stone. His voice cracked. I'm sorry, Mother. Whether redemption would ever find him, no one knew. But Eleanor Whitmore's legacy, her secrets, her sacrifices, her truths had already reshaped the Whitmores forever.